Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive, this time on maximizing your workout routine. We're going to unlock the secrets of the power of exercise, strategies, and mistakes.
That's right. And this source isn't your typical generic fitness guide.
Yeah.
I mean, it really gets into like the specifics of what actually makes a difference in your routine.
Yeah, it's one of the first things that struck me was the emphasis on finding an activity you actually enjoy.
Right.
Like, it sounds obvious, but
There you go.
I've definitely been guilty of, kind of forcing myself to do workouts that I really hated
Yeah.
just because I thought they were, like, supposed to be good for me.
And that's where I think so many people go wrong,
Yeah.
you know? This whole idea of sustainability,
Hmm.
you know, if you just absolutely dread your workouts, you're just not going to stick with them. It's like trying to force yourself to eat broccoli every day when you're craving pizza. Eventually, you're going to give in.
I love that analogy.
So this source encourages you to ask yourself, like, what actually gets you moving? What really fits into your lifestyle? What brings you a sense of accomplishment?
Yeah, that's such a good point. It's about finding that sweet spot where fitness becomes something you actually look forward to, not a chore.
Right.
Okay, so that brings us to the next point. Strength training versus cardio.
Oh, yeah. The age-old debate.
Yeah, I've always been a bit confused about how to balance the two. Like, should I be lifting weights or pounding the pavement or...
Well, this source recommends actually doing both.
Okay.
And here's why. They work together to
Huh.
create a well-rounded routine. So strength training, you ideally want to do that 2 to 3 times a week.
Okay.
That's like building the foundation of your fitness house. It builds muscle, it increases your metabolism, so you're burning more calories even at rest.
Ooh, I like that. So, like, I can be, binge watching Netflix and still burning calories.
Exactly. That's the power of strength training.
Okay. So
Yeah.
that definitely motivates me to hit the weights. But what about cardio? I thought that was the key to weight loss.
Cardio is super important too,
Eh.
especially for heart health and endurance. Think of it like installing solar panels on your fitness house. Yeah. Powers everything up. Running, cycling, swimming, all of those get your heart rate up and help you build stamina.
Okay.
But I think the real magic happens when you combine the two.
Yeah.
You're basically creating like a high-performance machine that's both strong and efficient.
So it's like a fitness dynamic duo.
Exactly.
I love it. Okay, now I am someone who tends to go all in when I get motivated. But this source is all about setting realistic goals.
Yeah.
And I think that's something I really need to work on. I often set the bar way too high and then get discouraged when I don't see results right away.
This source really emphasizes the importance of, breaking down your fitness journey into achievable milestones. It's not about overnight transformations. It's about, consistent progress. So instead of like aiming to run a marathon right away, maybe you start with a 5K.
Yeah.
Or instead of, trying to lift a certain amount of weight, you focus on increasing your reps gradually.
I like that. That seems much less daunting than trying to achieve everything at once. But how do I know what goals are realistic for me?
I think that's where self-awareness really comes in. So this source encourages you to consider your current fitness level, also your time constraints, and any limitations you might have. It's also about identifying what truly motivates you. Like, what do you want to achieve? What does success look like for you?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So it's about tailoring your fitness journey to your individual needs and aspirations rather than trying to fit into a one-size-fits-all mold.
Exactly.
Okay. And speaking of tailoring, let's talk about warm-ups and cool-downs.
Yes.
I will confess, I've been guilty of skipping these in the past. I always thought they were just kind of like extra fluff.
Right.
But this source really stresses their importance.
And for good reason. They might seem like optional extras, but they're super important for injury prevention and maximizing your workouts.
So what's actually happening in our bodies during a warm-up?
Think of it like waking up your muscles after a good night's sleep. A proper warm-up, this source really emphasizes dynamic stretching, prepares your body for the workout, it increases blood flow to your muscles, raises your core temperature, and it improves range of motion.
So instead of just hopping on the treadmill or grabbing those weights right away, I should be doing these dynamic stretches.
Yeah.
What kind of stretches are we talking about?
Leg swings, arm circles, torso twists. Those are all great examples. Just, movements that kind of mimic the exercises you're going to be doing, but at a slower pace.
Oh, okay.
Just getting your body primed and ready for action.
Okay. And then on the other side, we've got the cool down.
Yes, the cool down is just as important.
I will admit, I often rush out of the gym the second I'm done with my workout.
Oh, yeah.
Usually because I'm pressed for time, but now I'm thinking maybe I need to reconsider that.
The cool down is like a thank you note to your body after it's worked so hard for you.
I like that.
And this is where static stretching comes in. Holding those stretches for like 30 seconds or so helps bring your heart rate down, gradually reduce muscle soreness, and improve flexibility.
Okay, so how long should these warm-ups and cool-downs be? I'm all for taking care of my body, but I'm also realistic about, my time constraints.
This source recommends 5 to 10 minutes each,
Okay.
which I think is pretty reasonable,
Yeah.
considering all the benefits. It's like putting on your seatbelt before driving a car. It takes a couple seconds, but it could save you from serious injury.
That's a great point. A small investment of time can have a huge payoff in terms of your overall health and well-being. And speaking of investments, let's talk about consistency.
Yeah.
I think that's where I struggle the most. I'll have bursts of motivation where I'm hitting the gym regularly and then life gets in the way and I totally fall off track.
This source really hammers home the point that consistency is key when it comes to exercise. It's not about, sporadic bursts of effort. It's about making it a part of your lifestyle. And it doesn't necessarily mean, spending hours at the gym every day.
Yeah, I was going to say life can get pretty hectic.
Exactly. And this source, recognizes that. They suggest incorporating short daily workouts, even if that's all you can manage. Even 10 to 15 minutes can make a difference if you do it consistently. It's just about finding ways to integrate movement into your day-to-day life, like taking the stairs instead of the elevator, or going for a brisk walk during your lunch break,
Yeah.
or, even just doing some stretches while you're watching TV.
Okay, so it's about making fitness a natural part of your routine, not something you have to force yourself to do.
Precisely.
Okay, so we've talked about finding activities we enjoy, balancing strength training and cardio, setting realistic goals, warming up and cooling down properly, and being consistent with our workouts. Now I want to dive into something that's always intimidated me a little bit. Technique. I often worry that I'm not doing exercises correctly, and I could be hurting myself.
That's a valid concern.
Hmm.
And this source addresses that directly. Proper technique is crucial, not just for maximizing the benefits, but also for, injury prevention. Think of it like learning any new skill. You wouldn't try to build a house without a blueprint, right?
That's a great analogy.
Exactly. So this source highlights a common mistake: trying to lift too much weight too soon.
Oh, yeah.
You might feel like you're pushing yourself, but if your form is off, you're actually putting yourself at risk of injury.
Okay.
It's much better to start with lighter weights
Okay.
and really focus on mastering that technique before you increase the load.
So how do I know if my form is correct? Are there any telltale signs that I might be doing something wrong?
Having a qualified trainer or a fitness professional can be really invaluable.
Yeah.
They can observe you, they can provide feedback, they can make adjustments as needed.
So it's like having a personal coach in your corner, making sure you're on the right track.
Ex-
What about online resources? I've seen countless, workout videos and tutorials online. Can those be helpful at all?
They can, but it's important to be discerning about it.
Okay.
This source cautions against blindly following online tutorials. Look for videos from reputable sources, ideally led by certified trainers or fitness professionals. People who actually demonstrate proper form and provide clear instructions. It's also super important to listen to your body and stop if you're feeling any pain.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think I've been guilty in the past of, kind of pushing through discomfort,
Yeah.
thinking it was just part of the process. But now I'm realizing, pain is my body's way of telling me something's wrong.
Exactly. Pain is not a badge of honor. It's a warning sign.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. Finding activities we enjoy, balancing strength training and cardio, setting realistic goals, warming up and cooling down, being consistent, and using proper technique. Now let's talk about something that I think is often overlooked, but equally important: recovery.
Oh, yeah.
I tend to think of exercise as go, go, go.
Right.
But this source emphasizes the importance of rest.
And rightfully so. Rest is an essential part of the equation because it's during those periods of rest that your muscles are actually repairing and rebuilding themselves.
So it's not just about working hard, it's also about giving our bodies the time they need to recover and adapt.
Exactly.
I never really thought of it that way before.
It's like, baking a cake. You can't
Mhm.
just keep adding more ingredients and expect it to magically turn into a delicious treat.
Yeah,
You need to give it time to bake so the flavors can meld and the texture can set.
I love that. So how much rest do we actually need? And what does rest even entail?
Well, this source recommends incorporating rest days into your routine,
Okay.
where you're giving your body a break from exercise.
So no sneaking in a quick jog or hitting the gym on those rest days.
Ideally not.
Okay.
It's about giving those muscles a chance to fully recover. But rest isn't just about taking days off. It's also about getting enough sleep. This source emphasizes the importance of quality sleep for muscle repair, hormone regulation, and just overall well-being.
Okay, so rest days A and D enough shut-eye.
Yes,
I'm starting to realize that recovery is just as important as the workouts themselves.
it is.
Like a yin and yang balance, you need both to achieve optimal results.
Precisely.
Okay. Now, this all sounds great in theory, but I think it's time to face the music and talk about some of those common exercise mistakes that the source highlights. I have a feeling I'm guilty of at least a few of these.
I think we all are.
Yeah.
It's a learning process,
Yeah.
But the good news is by being aware of these pitfalls, we can avoid them and really set ourselves up for success.
Okay, I'm ready to hear it. What's the first mistake on the list?
Well, we've already touched on this, but it's worth reiterating. Skipping those warm-ups and cool-downs. It might seem tempting to save time, but as we discussed, those few minutes can make a huge difference in preventing injuries.
Okay. Yeah, I am definitely guilty of that one. I will admit, I've been treating warm-ups like the opening credits of a movie, something I just want to skip.
Right.
But now I'm realizing they're not just filler content, they're actually integral to the whole experience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the source really stresses, the potential consequences of neglecting these steps.
Yeah.
Skipping the warm-up can lead to strains, sprains, and other injuries, while neglecting the cool-down can leave you feeling stiff and sore.
Okay, so it's like playing Russian roulette with my muscles.
It kind of is.
Not a risk I'm willing to take anymore. What's the next mistake we need to watch out for?
Overtraining without adequate rest. This is a common trap, especially when you're feeling motivated and seeing progress. You might think more is always better, but that's not always the case. Pushing your body too hard without giving it time to recover can lead to fatigue, burnout, and even injury.
Yeah.
It's like running your car engine at full speed constantly.
Right.
Eventually, it's going to break down.
Okay, that's a great analogy. And I think it's something that I've definitely struggled with in the past. I get so caught up in, the excitement of working out that I forget to listen to my body. But now I'm starting to realize that rest is just as important as exertion.
It is.
Okay. Rest days are officially back on my schedule. Now, here's a mistake I think a lot of people make, including myself. Relying solely on cardio for weight loss.
Oh, yeah.
I used to think that hours on the treadmill was like the key to a slimmer waistline.
Right. Well, this is a common misconception that the source addresses directly.
Mhm.
While cardio is fantastic for burning calories and heart health,
Mm.
it's not the only piece of the puzzle when it comes to weight loss. Strength training is crucial for building muscle, which burns more calories at rest.
Oh, okay. So it's about creating that lean, mean, calorie-burning machine.
Precise.
Okay. That's a powerful image. I'm definitely going to be incorporating more strength training into my routine. Now, here's one we all know but might not always follow. Not drinking enough water.
Yes, hydration is so important.
Yeah. I'm terrible at remembering to hydrate, especially during a workout.
This is another crucial point. Dehydration can be a performance killer. It can lead to fatigue, muscle cramps, dizziness, and even more serious health problems. Think of your body as a complex machine that needs water to function properly. Without enough water, those gears start to grind and the whole system slows down.
So sipping water throughout the day is essential.
Yes.
And we need to be even more diligent about hydrating during exercise.
Exactly. Don't wait until you're thirsty. That's a sign you're already dehydrated. Aim to drink before, during, and after your workouts to replenish those fluids you've lost. Got it. Water bottle is officially my new workout buddy. Now back to technique for a moment. We talked about the importance of proper form, but this source lists using incorrect form as a major mistake that people make. And I think I'm guilty of this one too. I often rush through exercises, especially when I'm short on time.
I think a lot of us do. And that's when you really set yourself up for injuries. Using incorrect form not only reduces the effectiveness of the exercise, but it also puts strain on your joints and muscles, which can lead to pain and injury. It's like trying to build a house with crooked walls. It might stand for a while, but it's not going to be stable in the long run.
So if I'm unsure about my form, it's best to seek guidance from a trainer
Absolutely.
or a fitness professional.
They can help you stay safe and get the most out of your workouts.
Okay. I'm putting find a trainer at the top of my to-do list. Now let's talk fuel. I've always been a bit confused about what to eat before and after a workout. The source points out that not fueling your body properly can really sabotage your efforts. This is a fascinating point because the source emphasizes both what you eat and when you eat it.
Oh.
Eating too little or the wrong foods before a workout can leave you feeling really sluggish and weak. It's like trying to run a marathon on an empty stomach. You wouldn't expect your car to perform well without gas, right?
That's a great point. So what's the ideal pre-workout fuel according to this source?
They recommend a balanced meal with protein and carbohydrates for sustained energy. This could be, a small bowl of oatmeal with some berries and nuts, or a banana with peanut butter.
Okay, those both sound delicious and energizing. What about post-workout nutrition?
After a workout, your body needs to replenish its glycogen stores and repair those muscles. This source suggests a combination of protein and carbs within 30 to 60 minutes of finishing your workout. So this could be a protein shake with fruit, or, chicken breast with brown rice, or even just some yogurt with granola.
Got it. So it's all about providing our bodies with the right nutrients at the right time to optimize our performance and recovery. Now, here's a mistake we're all probably guilty of at some point, expecting instant results.
Oh, yeah.
I've definitely fallen into the trap of quick fix diets and, those miracle workouts, only to be disappointed when I don't magically transform overnight.
This source brings us back down to earth with a dose of reality. Fitness is a journey, not a destination.
Yeah.
It takes time and effort and consistency to see lasting results. Those crash diets and extreme workouts might promise a quick fix, but they're not sustainable, and they can even be harmful.
So patience and persistence are key.
Absolutely. About building healthy habits you can sustain. Think of it like building a house you wouldn't expect to move in after the first brick is laid right.
That's so true. It's all about those consistent efforts day after day, workout after workout.
It's like, laying the foundation before you start decorating. You wouldn't just slap on a coat of paint without making sure the foundation is solid. The same goes for exercise. Mastering the fundamentals really sets you up for long-term success and helps you avoid those injuries that can really set you back.
That's such a good point. I'm definitely going to be paying more attention to my form from now on. Now, let's shift gears a bit and talk about something that's always been a bit of a struggle for me personally, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners can relate. Motivation. Those days when it's just really hard to drag yourself to the gym or even just like lace up your sneakers for a walk.
Yeah.
What does this source have to say about overcoming those motivation slumps?
Well, this source actually has a whole section dedicated to the psychology of exercise, which I found super interesting. And it acknowledges, that motivation comes and goes. Some days you're going to be totally raring to go, and other days it's going to feel like an uphill battle. The key is to find those strategies that work for you. Those little things that help you stay on track, even when you're not feeling super enthusiastic.
Okay, so what kind of strategies are we talking about? I'm all ears.
Well, one thing that really stood out to me was the emphasis on setting realistic goals,
Right.
which we touched on earlier.
Hmm.
If you set the bar too high, you're just going to get discouraged
Yeah.
and probably give up. But if you break down your fitness goals into smaller, more achievable steps, it creates a sense of accomplishment. And that actually fuels your motivation to keep going.
Mm.
It's like climbing a mountain. If you focus on reaching the summit all at once, it can seem overwhelming. But if you break it down into those base camps along the way, each milestone feels like a victory that pushes you forward.
I love that analogy. It makes the whole process seem so much more manageable. What other strategies does this source recommend for staying motivated?
Well, another tip is to find a workout buddy. Having someone to exercise with can really help with accountability. You've got that support and maybe even a little friendly competition.
Yeah.
It's much harder to hit that snooze button when you know your friend is waiting for you at the gym.
That's so true. I've definitely noticed that I'm way more likely to stick to my routine when I have someone to share the experience with. It makes it more fun, less like a chore.
Right. And this source also emphasizes the importance of celebrating those small wins along the way.
Oh,
Don't wait until you've reached your ultimate goal to acknowledge your progress. Every workout you complete, every healthy meal you choose, every step you take towards a healthier, those are all wins.
I love that. So it's about, focusing on the positive and giving ourselves credit for all the effort we're putting in rather than just, fixating on that end goal.
Exactly.
So we've got setting realistic goals, finding a workout buddy, and celebrating those small wins. What other motivational tips does this source offer?
Well, one that really resonated with me was the idea of reframing your mindset around exercise.
Okay.
Instead of viewing it as an obligation, try to see it as an opportunity,
Yeah.
a chance to move your body, improve your health, and boost your mood.
I like that. I think I often get stuck in the I have to mentality, which just makes it feel like a burden. But if I can start to see it as a choice, something I'm doing for myself,
Right.
it might feel more empowering.
Absolutely. And this source also encourages you to experiment
Okay.
and, find activities that you actually enjoy. If you hate running, don't run.
Yeah.
There's so many other ways to move your body, explore different classes, try new sports, or just put on some music and dance around your living room.
Yeah.
The most important thing is to find what brings you joy.
It's about finding that joy in movement. I love that.
Right.
When you enjoy what you're doing, it's so much easier to stick with it. Okay, well, we've covered a lot of ground today, from the importance of warming up and cooling down to the power of finding an activity you love and all the psychology behind staying motivated. I feel like I've learned so much from this deep dive into the power of exercise. But before we wrap up, I want to circle back to something you mentioned earlier about the science behind exercise. I think a lot of us, go through the motions of working out without really understanding what's happening inside our bodies.
Yeah, that's true. And this
Hmm.
source does a really good job of breaking it down in a way that's easy to understand.
Okay.
And honestly fascinating. It talks about the physiological changes that are happening, like how our muscles adapt, how our cardiovascular system gets stronger, how our bodies become more efficient at burning calories.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Can you give us a little sneak peek into some of those scientific insights?
One thing I found really interesting was the discussion about muscle protein synthesis.
Okay.
This is basically the process of how our bodies build and repair muscle tissue after a workout.
Oh,
So, when we exercise, we create tiny tears in our muscle fibers.
okay.
And these tears aren't a bad thing. They're actually essential for muscle growth.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Our bodies respond to these little micro tears by repairing them and making the muscle fiber stronger.
So it's like a phoenix rising from the ashes.
Exactly. And this whole process is enhanced by nutrition and rest,
Okay.
which is why those things are so important.
It's all starting to make sense now. I never realized how much science was involved in something as simple as like lifting a weight or going for a run.
It's pretty amazing,
Yeah.
and that's just the beginning.
Yeah.
This source also talks about the cardiovascular benefits.
Mm.
How exercise strengthens our heart, improves blood flow, and reduces our risk of heart disease.
It's incredible. I'm starting to see exercise in a whole new light.
Mm.
It's not just about looking good or fitting into those skinny jeans. It's
Right.
about investing in my long-term health.
Exactly. And the benefits go beyond just the physical. Regular activity can improve your mood, reduce stress boost, your brain power, even help you sleep better.
Okay, so it really is like a wonder drug with no side effects.
Pretty much.
But with all this talk of muscle tears and cardiovascular adaptations, I'm starting to feel a little intimidated. It all seems so complex.
You don't need to be a scientist to benefit from exercise.
Okay.
This source breaks it down in a really clear and simple way,
Yeah, that's good.
so you can understand it without getting bogged down in all the technical jargon.
That is reassuring because I think sometimes we tend to overthink things,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to health and fitness.
Yeah, definitely.
So this source kind of strikes that balance between the scientific insight and the practical advice that we can actually apply to our lives.
Exactly. It's like having a friendly expert guiding you through it all.
I love that. Well, we've covered a lot of ground here today, from the importance of warming up and cooling down to the psychology of staying motivated and the science behind how it all works. I feel like I've learned so much from this deep dive into the power of exercise. But before we wrap up, I want to touch on one more thing that I think a lot of our listeners probably struggle with, and that's staying injury-free. Because no matter how motivated or knowledgeable we are, injuries can happen,
Oh, yeah.
and they can be incredibly frustrating setbacks. What does the source say about how to prevent those dreaded injuries?
Well, one of the key takeaways is to really listen to your body and not push yourself too hard too soon. It's tempting to just go all in when you're feeling motivated,
Right.
but that can backfire if your body isn't ready for it.
Right. So it's about finding that sweet spot between challenging ourselves and also respecting our limits.
Exactly. And this source really emphasizes gradual progression. Don't try to go from, couch potato to marathon runner overnight.
Yeah.
Start slowly, build up gradually, and give your body time to adapt.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think I've been guilty of trying to do too much too soon,
Yeah.
and I always end up injured or burnt out. What other injury prevention tips does this source offer?
Well, another important point is, proper warm-up and cool-down.
Right.
Talked about that earlier, but those few minutes can really make all the difference in preventing those common injuries.
Okay. Warm-ups and cool-downs are non-negotiable. I'm committing to those. What about stretching? I've heard mixed things about whether stretching is actually beneficial or even necessary.
Well, this source goes into the different types of stretching
Okay.
and their specific benefits. Static stretching, where you're holding a stretch for an extended period, that's best done after your workout when your muscles are warm. It helps improve flexibility, reduce muscle soreness, and promote relaxation.
So static stretching is like a nice little treat for our muscles after they've worked so hard.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Then there's dynamic stretching,
right.
which we talked about earlier as part of your warm-up, and that involves those movements that mimic the exercises you're going to be doing.
Okay,
Helps to increase blood flow to your muscles and, prepare your body for the workout.
got it. So static stretching after and dynamic stretching before. What other stretching tips does this source have?
They really emphasize the importance of listening to your body
Okay.
and not pushing past your limits. If you feel any pain during a stretch, stop immediately.
Okay.
Stretching should never be painful. It should feel like a gentle release of tension.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think sometimes we get caught up in that whole no pain, no gain mentality.
Right.
But it sounds like that could actually be counterproductive, especially when it comes to stretching.
Absolutely. And you want to be consistent with it. Just like with exercise, stretching is most effective when it's done regularly.
Okay, so no more just sporadic stretching sessions whenever I happen to remember.
Exactly. Try to make it a part of your daily routine, even on days when you're not working out. Just a few minutes can make a huge difference in maintaining flexibility and preventing injuries.
Okay, stretching is officially on my daily to-do list. What other injury prevention strategies does this source recommend?
But one thing they highlight is proper footwear. Wearing shoes that fit well and provide good support is so important
Yep.
for preventing those foot, ankle, and knee injuries.
Okay.
This source actually talks about the different types of athletic shoes, and you know how to choose the right ones for your activity and foot type.
That's interesting. I've always just kind of grabbed whatever looked cute or was on sale.
Right.
But I'm starting to realize that investing in good footwear is really an investment in my health.
It is. Think of your shoes as the foundation for your workout.
Yeah,
If they're not providing that support, the whole structure can kind of crumble.
that's a great analogy. What other shoe-related tips does this source give?
They recommend replacing your shoes every 300 to 500 miles,
Oh. Oh,
or sooner if you're noticing wear and tear.
that seems like a lot.
I know it might seem excessive, but think about how much stress those shoes endure. All that pounding, twisting, and turning.
Yeah, that's true. I definitely tend to hold on to my shoes until they're practically falling apart.
Yeah.
But I'm realizing that might not be the best approach.
Probably not.
Okay. What else? What other injury prevention wisdom does this source offer?
One thing they emphasize is cross-training. Doing the same activity day after day can really put stress on certain muscles and joints,
Okay.
which can increase your risk of injury. So by incorporating different activities, you're giving those overused muscles a break and working other muscle groups, which creates a more balanced and resilient body.
So it's not just about variety for the sake of, avoiding boredom. It's actually about protecting our bodies from injury. What kind of cross-training activities does this source recommend?
They recommend a mix of cardio strength training and flexibility exercises.
Okay.
So for example, if you're a runner,
Yeah.
you might try incorporating some swimming or cycling
Yeah.
to give your joints a break from all that pounding.
Right.
Or if you primarily lift weights,
Yeah.
maybe add in some yoga or Pilates to improve your flexibility.
Okay. So it's about, challenging our bodies in different ways while also giving them the rest they need.
Exactly.
Now let's talk about something that's often overlooked but can be a major contributor to those injuries: hydration. We touched on this earlier, but I think it's worth reiterating just how important it is to stay properly hydrated, especially when you're exercising.
Absolutely. And this source makes a really good point about the link between dehydration and injury.
Oh.
When we're dehydrated, our muscles and joints aren't as lubricated, which makes them more prone to strains and sprains.
So it's like trying to run a car without enough oil.
Exactly. Things are going to start to grind and eventually break down.
Right.
So make sure you're starting your workout hydrated
Yeah.
and, keep drinking fluids throughout your session.
So sip, sip, sip.
Exactly. They recommend sipping water or a sports drink every 15-20 minutes, depending on the intensity of your workout.
Okay, water bottle, officially my new workout buddy. But how do I know if I'm drinking enough? Well, one way is to check the color of your urine.
Okay.
It should be pale yellow or clear. If it's dark yellow, that's a sign you need to drink more.
Okay, that's a helpful tip. Now let's talk about something that can be a bit controversial. Supplements. There are so many products out there claiming to boost performance or speed up recovery. What does this source have to say about, the role of supplements in a fitness routine?
This source is pretty cautious about supplements.
Okay.
They emphasize that they should never replace a healthy diet.
Right.
And they stress the importance of doing your research.
Okay.
Choosing products from reputable brands that have been third-party tested.
So it's buyer beware.
Exactly. And they also point out that certain supplements can interact with medications
Yeah.
or have unwanted side effects.
Right.
So talk to your doctor before adding anything new.
Yeah, that's always good advice. Now let's talk about something that can be a bit personal and sometimes even embarrassing. Injuries. No matter how careful we are, accidents happen and they can really set us back.
What does this source say about dealing with injuries and, getting back on track safely?
This source has a whole section on injury management
Okay.
and rehabilitation. One of the key messages is to seek professional medical attention for any serious injury. Don't try to tough it out
Yeah,
or self-diagnose.
right.
A doctor or a physical therapist can properly assess it and create a treatment plan that's safe.
So no more Dr. Google self-diagnoses. I think I've definitely been guilty of that in the past.
Yeah,
But I'm realizing now it's always better to err on the side of caution and get expert advice.
absolutely. And they also emphasize the importance of following your doctor's instructions.
Yeah.
Don't rush the healing process. It's tempting to get back to your old routine as quickly as possible,
Oh, yeah.
but pushing too soon can lead to further injury.
So patience is key.
It is. And listen to your body. Be aware of any lingering pain or discomfort.
Okay.
That's your body telling you something's not right.
Yeah. That's such a good reminder. I think sometimes we get so caught up in achieving our goals that we forget to tune into our bodies and what they're trying to tell us. What other injury-related wisdom does this source offer?
Well, one thing they recommend is finding alternative activities,
Oh, okay.
while you're recovering. So if you can't run because of a knee injury, maybe try swimming or cycling to maintain your fitness without stressing that joint.
So it's about being adaptable and finding ways to stay active,
Right.
even when we're facing limitations.
Exactly.
Now let's talk about something that can be a bit daunting for people who are new to exercise, just getting started. Where do you even begin? This source has a lot of advice for those who are, embarking on their fitness journey. What are some of the key takeaways there?
Well, one thing they emphasize is setting realistic goals. Don't try to do too much too soon.
Okay.
Start with a couple of short workouts each week and gradually increase it as you get stronger.
Okay, so it's about starting small and building momentum over time.
Exactly. And, find an activity you actually enjoy.
Yeah.
If you hate running, don't run.
Right.
Explore, different classes, try new sports, put on some music, and dance around your living room.
Yeah.
The most important thing is to find something that's fun and motivating.
That's so true. I think sometimes we get caught up in the idea that exercise has to be this grueling, sweat-inducing ordeal,
Right.
but it can actually be enjoyable. And when you actually look forward to it, you're way more likely to stick with it.
Exactly. And, listen to your body. It's okay to start slowly and build up gradually.
That's reassuring. I think sometimes as beginners, we feel like we need to jump into this intense routine, but it sounds like it's totally fine to start small.
Yeah, start where you are and go from there.
Okay. What other advice does this source offer for beginners?
Well, they also encourage seeking support from friends, family, or, even a fitness professional. Having that cheerleader in your corner can make a big difference.
That's so important. I think sometimes we try to do everything on our own, but having that support system makes the journey so much easier and more enjoyable. Now, let's talk about something that can be a huge barrier to exercise for a lot of people: time constraints. We all lead busy lives, and it can be hard to fit in workouts between work, family, and everything else.
It's a challenge.
Yeah. What does this source say about making time for fitness when you're feeling super overwhelmed?
Well, it recognizes that time is precious.
Yeah.
And it offers some tips for squeezing in workouts even when you're short on time. One thing they suggest is incorporating short bursts of activity throughout your day.
Oh, okay.
Even 10 minutes here and there can really add up.
So it's not about finding a huge chunk of time. It's about getting creative and finding those little pockets of time that you can dedicate to movement.
Exactly.
What kind of activities can you do in those short bursts?
Take the stairs instead of the elevator, go for a brisk walk during your lunch break, or even just do a few squats while you're waiting for your coffee to brew.
I love that. It's about making fitness a part of your everyday life.
Right. And, it can be helpful to shift your mindset around exercise a little bit.
Okay.
Instead of viewing it as another chore on your to-do list,
Yeah.
try to see it as a way to de-stress, boost your energy, and, improve your well-being.
Yeah, I think I often get caught up in the "I don't have time" excuse. But if I start to see it as a way to enhance my life rather than take away from it,
Right.
it might actually feel more appealing.
Absolutely. And, maybe try setting aside specific times in your schedule for workouts,
Okay.
just like you would for any other important appointment. Treat them as non-negotiable commitments.
That's a great tip. I think sometimes we put everyone else's needs before our own, but it's important to prioritize our health and well-being. Okay. Now let's talk about something that I know can be really intimidating for a lot of people, especially those who are new to exercise. The gym. It
Yeah.
can be kind of a foreign environment, with all those machines and weights and like seemingly fit people everywhere.
Right.
What does this source have to say about, navigating the gym and feeling more comfortable in that setting?
Well, this source actually dedicates a whole chapter to that, gym etiquette and feeling more confident.
Oh, wow.
One of the key things they emphasize is that everyone starts somewhere.
Yeah.
You don't have to be a seasoned athlete or a fitness expert to belong there.
Right.
And, familiarize yourself with the equipment before you start using it.
Right.
Most gyms have staff who can give you a tour and show you how to use the machines.
Okay. So it's like, taking a test drive before you buy a car.
Exactly. And, start with a simple routine. You don't have to try every machine or lift the heaviest weights. Just focus on the basics and go from there.
That's great advice. I think sometimes we get overwhelmed by all the options and try to do too much.
Right?
But it sounds like it's best to just start with a few basic exercises.
Absolutely. And, wear comfortable clothes.
Okay.
You don't need fancy workout gear,
Right.
but make sure it's breathable and allows you to move freely.
So comfort and functionality over fashion. I can definitely get behind that.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
just, be mindful of the other people there. Wipe down the equipment when you're done.
Right.
Put your weights away.
Yeah.
And avoid those loud phone conversations.
Good gym etiquette. Okay. Now let's talk about something that can be a bit taboo, but it's something we all experience at some point. Plateaus. Those points where it feels like we're not making progress no matter how hard we try.
Yeah, we all hit those plateaus.
Yeah. What does this source say about, breaking through those frustrating plateaus and continuing to challenge our bodies?
Well, this source says that plateaus are normal,
Okay.
and it offers a few strategies for dealing with them.
Okay.
One thing they suggest is mixing up your routine.
Okay.
If you've been doing the same exercises week after week, your body might have adapted, and it's time to shake things up.
Okay, so it's about keeping our bodies guessing
Right.
and challenging them in new ways.
Exactly. Try new activities.
Yeah.
Increase the intensity, maybe change the order of your exercises. Even small tweaks can make a difference.
Okay.
And pay attention to nutrition and recovery.
Yeah.
If you're not fueling your body properly
Yeah.
or giving it adequate rest, you're not going to see the results you want.
So it's not just about what we do in the gym, it's about what we do outside of the gym as well.
Right. And, set realistic expectations.
Okay.
Progress isn't always linear.
Yeah.
You're going to have ups and downs.
Yeah.
Don't get discouraged if you hit a plateau. It's just a sign that you need a new challenge or maybe a little extra support.
That's a good reminder because I think sometimes we get impatient
Yeah.
and expect to see results right away.
And sometimes the scale doesn't tell the whole story.
Right.
You might be getting stronger or fitter even if the number isn't budging.
Okay.
So pay attention to how your clothes fit, how you feel, how your energy levels are.
That's a good point. I think sometimes we get so fixated on that number on the scale that we forget to look at all the other positive changes that are happening.
It's about the big picture.
Okay, now let's talk about setting goals.
Yeah.
Goals give us something to strive for. What does the source say about setting effective fitness goals?
They emphasize the importance of setting what they call SMART goals.
Oh, SMART goals. I've heard of those. Can you remind me what that stands for?
So SMART stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound.
Okay. Can you break those down a little bit?
Sure. So specific means your goal is clearly defined.
Good.
Instead of saying, I want to get in shape,
Yeah.
you might say, I want to run a 5K in under 30 minutes.
Okay.
Measurable means you can track your progress.
Okay.
Achievable means it's challenging but realistic.
Right.
Relevant means it's meaningful to you
Yeah.
and aligns with your overall aspirations. And then time-bound means you have a deadline in mind, which helps with accountability.
Okay. That's a great breakdown. I think I've definitely been guilty of setting vague goals in the past. Like, I want to lose weight or I want to eat healthier.
Right.
Those are way too general.
Exactly. So SMART goals create a roadmap.
Okay.
It's like having a GPS for your fitness journey.
I love that analogy. Okay. Now let's talk about tracking progress.
Oh, yeah.
What does this source say about the benefits of tracking, our workouts, our food intake, and all those other metrics?
Well, this source actually have a whole chapter on the power of tracking,
Okay.
and it emphasizes that it's not about obsessing over the numbers. It's about gaining insights into your habits, seeing those patterns and celebrating your successes.
So it's about, being a scientist of our own bodies,
Right.
gathering that data and, making adjustments as needed.
Exactly.
Right.
And there's so many ways to track. You can use a fitness tracker, a smartphone app, a notebook, or even just make mental notes. Find what works for you.
Okay, so you don't need all the fancy gadgets and apps.
Nope. It's about finding what works for you and what you can stick with.
Okay, so what kind of things should we be tracking?
They suggest tracking your workouts, your food intake, your weight, sleep energy levels, and even your mood.
That's a lot of information.
It is.
But I can see how tracking all of those things could give you a more complete picture.
Absolutely. And, it's not just about identifying areas where you need to improve.
Right.
It's also about celebrating your wins and acknowledging how far you've come.
I love that. It's about, focusing on the positive and all the effort you're putting in
Exactly.
rather than just, beating yourself up for those slip-ups.
We all have those.
Right. What other benefits does this source mention about tracking?
Well, one thing they point out is that it can help you identify those patterns and triggers. So, for example, if you notice you tend to overeat when you're stressed,
Yeah.
you can start to develop strategies for managing your stress in healthier ways. Or if you're more likely to skip workouts when you're tired, you can prioritize sleep.
Right. So it's about becoming more self-aware
Yeah.
and making those conscious choices. Now, let's talk about something that I think can be really intimidating for a lot of people, especially those who are new to exercise. Nutrition. There's just so much information out there about what to eat, what not to eat, how much to eat.
It can be overwhelming.
It can be, yeah. So what does this source say about, developing those healthy eating habits that can support our fitness goals?
This source, it takes a pretty balanced approach.
Okay.
They emphasize that it's not about following these restrictive diets or depriving yourself.
Okay.
It's about making gradual changes that you can stick with.
So no crash diets or fad diets.
Right. Those might promise quick results, but
Mm.
they're often unsustainable and they can even backfire.
Yeah.
Focus on whole, unprocessed foods like fruits, vegetables, lean protein, and whole grains.
Okay, so that sounds pretty straightforward. But what about portion control? I think I struggle with knowing how much I should actually be eating.
This source has some tips for that.
Yeah.
One thing they suggest is using smaller plates and bowls.
Oh, okay.
Our brains tend to perceive a full plate as a satisfying meal, regardless of the actual size.
That's a great trick. I'm definitely going to try that. What other portion control tips do they offer?
They also suggest paying attention to your hunger cues and eating slowly.
Okay.
It takes about 20 minutes for your brain to register that you're full.
Oh,
So
wow.
if you're scarfing down your food,
Yeah,
you might end up overeating.
that makes total sense. I've definitely been guilty of, mindless eating in the past, especially when I'm stressed or distracted.
Right. And make gradual changes to your diet rather than overhauling everything at once.
Okay.
Start by swapping sugary drinks for water, add more fruits and veggies to your meals, or
Mhm.
choose lean protein instead of processed meats.
I like that approach because it seems a lot more manageable than trying to change everything overnight.
It is.
What other nutrition tips does the source offer?
They highlight the importance of meal planning. Taking some time each week to plan out your meals and snacks
Yeah.
can help you stay on track.
Okay, that's a really good idea. I think sometimes we get so busy that we just grab whatever's convenient.
Right. And be patient with yourself.
Okay.
It's okay to indulge sometimes.
Right.
Enjoy your favorite foods in moderation. It's all about finding a balance.
That's a refreshing perspective. I think sometimes we get caught up in the all or nothing mentality, but it sounds like it's okay to have a treat every now and then.
It is. It's all about finding what works for you.
Now, let's talk about something that can be a real obstacle for people who are just starting out. Finding the motivation to actually get started. What does this source say about overcoming that initial inertia and developing a consistent routine?
Well, they offer some really great tips for finding that motivation. One thing they suggest is setting realistic goals. Don't try to do too much too soon. Start with a few short workouts and build up from there.
That's so true. I think sometimes we get caught up in this idea that exercise has to be this grueling, horrible, sweat-inducing ordeal, but it can be fun. And when you actually enjoy it, you're way more likely to stick with it.
You are. And it's important to listen to your body too. It's okay to start slow.
Hmm.
Build up gradually.
That's reassuring because I think sometimes as beginners we feel like we have to jump into this super intense routine, but it sounds like it's perfectly fine to start small.
It is. Just, start where you are, go from there.
Okay. What other advice does the source offer for beginners?
Oh, they also suggest finding some support.
Wow.
Reach out to friends, family, or even a fitness professional. Having that support system can make a big difference.
That's so important. I think sometimes we try to do everything on our own, but having that cheerleader in your corner can make the journey so much easier and more enjoyable. Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. From finding activities we enjoy and fueling our bodies properly to setting realistic goals and staying motivated. This exploration of the power of exercise has been incredibly insightful.
It really has.
Yeah.
What I find most impressive about this source is how it really encourages you to take control of your fitness journey. You know,
Yeah.
it's not about following a one-size-fits-all program. It's about understanding these principles and applying them in a way that works for you.
Yeah.
Your body, your lifestyle.
Absolutely. It's like having a personalized fitness guide tailored to your own individual needs and goals. As we wrap up, I want to leave you with a final thought-provoking question that this source inspired. Now that you have all this knowledge at your fingertips, what's one small sustainable change you can make to your routine today? Maybe it's adding a 5-minute warm-up to your workout, or incorporating a rest day, or maybe even just finding an activity that brings you joy. Remember, even small changes, when done consistently, can lead to some pretty remarkable results. So get out there, move your body, and unlock the incredible power of exercise.